Hello friends, welcome to this video. So in this video we'll building a image blur kind of application. So you will be able to blur or hide sections of a image. So the interface has been built using Bootstrap. We have a choose file button where the user will select their image file. So a live preview will be also be shown. We have a slider to actually control the amount of blur that you want to add to a picture. So if I increase the blur level, you will see using the slider, the image will automatically update. You will see the image will be blurred. So it depends upon how much blur you add using that slider. So once you are done making the changes, you can click the download blurred image button to actually download the output image, and the image will be downloaded. And now you can check the output image. If you open this, you will now see the image is successfully blurred. You can't see. So this is a really simple application. It runs in the browser, and we haven't used any third-party library. We have just used JavaScript Canvas API. So all these methods are built in if you want to blur the image. So again, you can just use this slider to actually blur the section of the image. So many a times you want to blur images, so you can just see, you can use this app. So now to get started, you just need a single index.html file right here. So let me delete everything and start from scratch. So for building the UI, as I already told you, we are using Bootstrap. So I included the Bootstrap CDN right here at the HTML file. So now to make the interface, we will be using the container class of Bootstrap. Inside this, you will have the card class, MX Auto, to make it in the center position, padding 4, and it will have the shadow. And we will be giving a max width of 500 pixel. And inside this, we will have a H1 heading. I will set image blur app. And I will give it a bootstrap class of text center, font size 3, font weight bold, margin bottom 4. So if you open this inside the browser, it will look something like this, image blur app. And after that, we will have a simple form where we will allow the user to have an input field, input type file, and we will only be accepting images files, and we will be giving an ID here, image input, and it should be required. And for styling it, we will be using a bootstrap class of form control. So it will look something like this. So after that, we will have a button to submit the form. So the label of the button will simply, but also we will also be having a slider for blur. So simply we will have a label here, a class of form label, and this will be for choosing the amount of blur that you want to add. So this will be input type range. This will be a slider, and we will be giving an ID to it of blur slider, so that we can target in JavaScript, and also be giving a form range bootstrap class to style it. And the minimum value will be 0, and the maximum value of the slider will be 20, and the current value will be 0. So it will look something like this, the slider. It will look something like that. And after this, we will also be showing the value as well. right below it, inside this div, we will give this ID blur value, and we will be showing it right in the center. So we'll be giving a bootstrap class of text center, and we'll simply say blur 0 pixel. So we'll change this value using JavaScript. So as the slider changes, this value will change automatically. So after this, we will have the button, or we will show the image to the user, the output image. So we'll be giving an ID to the image where the user can see the output image, the blurred image. We'll also be giving a bootstrap class of preview image, and by default it will be hidden. The user can't see this div section when you load the application for the very first time. So, and outside just below this we will have a download button, and we'll be giving an ID to this. So we are just giving IDs to all these elements so that we can target it inside JavaScript. So we will be giving a btn success bootstrap class, margin top 4, and it will not be displayed, so d none, and download, as it's a download button. So the label will be simply download blurred image, and the file name I will give the default file name, which will be output.png. So this is your interface, which looks something like this. Now we just need to write the JavaScript code, and also just outside this div section, we will also be having a canvas tag, giving an ID to it of canvas, and this will not be displayed to the user. We will just be using to actually blur the image. So we have given the ID to it of canvas so that we can target in JavaScript code. So now you'll be writing the custom JavaScript code. We'll be including this custom JavaScript file. So now we need to get references of each and every DOM element that we have given IDs to. So we can target them using get element by ID. First of all, we'll be targeting the image input element, and then the slider using the same get element by ID method. Then we will get the preview element. We have given this ID preview image, and the actual value where we'll be showing the blur value. So we need to get reference to that element as well. So we have given that ID blur value, and the download button. I have given this ID download button. So we are just getting references of all these elements. And lastly, we also need to get access to that canvas element that we declared. We have given an ID here as well. And now we need to get the context using the canvas. We can use get context here method. We need to get the 2D context. So after getting that context, we now need to bind a event handler to this input field. So whenever user just selects any image file, this event handler will fire, and this callback function will execute holding this e parameter, which is event. So first of all, we can easily get the file which is selected by the user by e.target.files, and we need to get the first file like this. And here we will be checking the if condition, that if the file is valid, only in that case we will use the file reader constructor to actually read the input file, and this onload function will execute when the image is successfully rendered, and we will simply manipulate the source parameter, and whatever is e.target.result, this is actually the base64 code of the image which will be returned by this value. and we will be showing the live preview of the image as soon as the image is selected by the user. And also we need to make the hidden property to be as false. We need to show the image. So if you just reload the application and click on choose file button and choose any image file, and we are missing one line, that's why the image is not showing. We do need to call this method first of all, read as data URL, and then pass the input file. That's all. So now if you select the image will show. You will see that the image is showing right here in the live preview section. So now I need to bind a on change event handler to this blur slider. So as you change the slider, we need to blur this image. So how we can do that? We need to bind a slider event handler to the slider. So this event is input. So whenever the slider changes, this event will automatically fire. So first of all, we need to get the text, the value of the slider. We can do this using like this. So we are changing we are getting the blur slider value. We can get this value by dot value and then pixel. So as you now change the slider value, you will see this value is changing as we are moving the slider. So we are doing it using the JavaScript dynamically. So now after we do this, we now need to create a custom function, which I will call this as update blur, and I will call this function. So inside this function, we need to define the logic how to blur the image using the canvas API. So we will define this function update blur. So right here we will get the value of the blur. How much is the value? We can use the blur slider dot value to get the actual slider value, and then we will use this style dot filter. There is a property right here in CSS we can manipulate. So this property is blur, and here we can provide the value. This needs to be backtick symbol. It's a blur is a function, and here you can actually pass the blur value. As you know, blur is a CSS selector. We are essentially using that CSS selector dynamically using JavaScript. We are setting this property dot style dot filter. After you do this, you also need to write here pixel because the values are in pixel. And then we will be defining another function which will draw this image to the canvas using this blur value. So now we need to define the second function which will actually draw this image to the canvas with this blur value. So now to draw the image to the canvas, it's very simple. We need to instantiate a new image first of all, and then set the source parameter to the preview image.source. And when this image is loaded, this function will execute, and we will need to make the canvas width is equal to the original image width. Same goes with the height as well, image height. So after you do this, there is a function out there in canvas, which is first of all we need to clear the rectangle, canvas width, canvas height, and then there is a property called as filter, and here we can set this filter to the blur value that is provided. So this is the blur value that we had, and then we can write pixel right here, that's all. And now to draw the image, we have the draw image function. in this canvas API, and we can draw this actual blurred image on the canvas with x coordinate 0, y coordinate 0. And now we need to convert this image to a blob, so it can easily be done. There is a function right here inside canvas to data URL. This is the most basic function which is used. So this actually converts the image which is drawn on the canvas to an actual PNG image. It returns a base64 code where we need to provide the mem type, which is image/png, and then we need to set the button link to be this link, and then we need to unhide the button, so we will remove that class that we given in the HTML dynamically and show the download button. So that's all. This completes the application. That's all that we need to do for this application. So now if you choose your file, image file, increase the level of blurriness, you will now see the image will now get blurred as you increase the level. And now a download button will also be shown. If you click that download button, your image will get downloaded as a PNG image. Essentially, we are using the concept of JavaScript Canvas API. We are changing the blur level of the image, then we are redrawing the image onto the canvas, and then we converting that canvas to a actual PNG image file using this function, which is canvas to data URL. This is the main business logic of this application, main function, canvas to data URL. And after that we are just downloading it as an attachment. So haven't used any third-party library. This is all built in JavaScript Canvas API. So you can try all these tools by visiting my website freemediatools.com. It contains a lot more, thousands of free tools that you can use. And please hit that like button, subscribe the channel as well, and I will be seeing you in the next one video.